Today marks 20 years since the tragic bonfire collapse in Aggie Land that left a dozen people dead and hurt dozens more. We recently spoke with a survivor of that bonfire collapse.
November 18th marks 20 years since the tragic event at Texas A&M University in College Station when the annual Aggie Bonfire collapsed during its construction, killing 12 people and hurting 27. With me now is John Comstock, a survivor from the tragic event. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Would you walk us through what happened that night?
Sure. I was a freshman and I was on top of the third tier, so I was at the fourth tier and was basically calling in logs. So we used the crane, call in the logs, and wire them into the structure.
Wow, and what happened with the collapse?
Well, it swayed a little bit, just enough to throw me off balance, and the second I regained my balance, I grabbed onto the logs in front of me, and the structure was going down at that point, so I just held on.
Did you ever find out what had caused that?
It's kind of, there's many reasons that the collapse kind of happened. There was a slope, a lot of rainfall, and there were some construction errors, and then, lack of oversight, and then students who had no engineering background.
Can you walk me through what that felt like, being a college freshman?
For me, I just wanted to get out of there, and I knew I was trapped in a really bad way, so they had to get everybody else out below me before they could even work on extracting me from the site.
And on that note, you are often referenced as the 13th man. Can you talk about that?
Sure. There was a night where I was really critical, and I was taking 3 bags of blood, and they told my mom, he's going to bleed out, there's no way he can live. And so A&M caught wind of that, and they had a press release printed out and ready to go. And so it said my name was John Comstock, I was from Richardson, Texas, and I was the 13th fatality in the collapse.
So they already had everything written and ready to go to say that you had passed on.
Yes, it was printed out and ready.
And you were a part of this collapse. How long were you a part of it?
I was trapped for 7.5 hours.
So you were trapped for 7.5 hours
Yes.
before someone could come and get you out?
Yeah, before they could get me out. I think they started working to get me out at about the 6.5 hour mark.
Golly, and you were one of the last ones.
Yes, the last survivor.
What did it look like after that?
Obviously, I think once they got the site cleared, they started pulling logs apart to still look for anybody else who might possibly still be there. And I think they found a couple people, but they had already passed.
Wow. Let's talk for a minute about what that rebuild looked like. I know Aggie Land and Aggie culture is absolutely amazing. It's like none other. And so with that camaraderie, what did that rebuild look like in Aggie Land?
It was a very sad town when all of that happened. A&M is a very tight-knit community. I received letters from across the world and such a great outpouring of Aggie spirit, many prayers and letters, and I think it took a long time for the city to really recover from that.
And you've seen the years go by and you've seen everything that they have done since that. They've put up the memorial and made some changes to that. What has that been like?
The memorial is stunning. They did a great job building that. It's very serene, and you really have the ability to go and look at the gateways of the 12 that passed and kind of get a feeling for who they were as people and what they like to do. So it's just a great memorial.
Thank you so much for joining us today, John, and talking about your story.
Thanks for having me.
And tonight at 6:30 on 25 News, we will take a deeper look back at that tragic day with our Bonfire Tragedy 20 Years Later special.